So up till now we've been using get method. You can see because under the method column it says get, and in get method the data is sent along as part of the URL. This is fine if you're sending small amounts of data, but if you're sending a lot of data, perhaps even the contents of an entire file, you really don't want to use get method. Really don't want all that data in the URL. So in those cases, you want to use post method instead. And the difference between get method and post method is instead of putting the data in the URL, the data is actually sent along as part of the request body. So let's see how to use post method here. I'm going to start with my AJAX. And the first difference is in this open. So this is for get. And then I'm going to comment that line out. And then here, this is going to be for post. So for post, I want to post. Actually, I can do this. There. So the only difference here is I use post method, and then I don't need this question mark or the data. With post method, the data is actually sent in this line here in this send request. So this once again is for get. And this is for post. xhr.send data. So let's go ahead and try that and see what we get. So I'm going to reload, type Mark Goodman instructor CIS233W fetch. So you'll see it didn't quite work. And let's take a look at what's going on. So the fetch headers, you'll see that it's using post correctly and that it found the page. And the request headers, you'll see there's this request payload. And the data is being sent along correctly, just as if we're sending it with get. The one part that's missing is that the server is expecting the browser to tell it how to process this data. And it really needs to know the encoding of the request payload. And that goes along in this request header. It has to tell it a content type. So by default, content type here is text/plain. So it's telling the browser, so the browser is telling the server to treat this as plain text, but it's not actually. It's actually URL encoded form data. So what I have to do is, before I do the send, I have to add a header to the XML HTTP request. So xhr dot, add, actually let me do that over here. XHR is new XML HTTP request, and then XHR, take a look at the methods on HTTP request. So there's a set request header, and this takes two parameters. The first one is going to be the name of the header, which is going to be content type, and the second is going to be the value I want to send along, which is actually pretty complicated. It's x-www-form-urlencoded. So that's the value I actually want to send along for content type. Actually, I want application / slash that. So that's going to be the request type. So set request header, make sure that that was right. Yeah, set request header, content dash type, comma, that. So that little bit of magic tells the server to interpret the request payload or the body as data. So let's go ahead and reload. Type my form data in again. Hit fetch. Actually still not working. So let's look at sources. So let's look at the network. Let's look at this fetch. In the request header, yeah, see content type is now application x-www-form-urlencoded. Let's see what else is going on. Content length, 64 characters, so that's about right. Oh, so you'll see the form data is actually showing up correctly now, so so that's okay. Let's look at the response. Oh, so I'm sending the data using post now, so it's not in $ under get anymore. So let's go ahead and that's for get as well. And here for post, echo JSON encode $ under post. There we go. So let's try it again. And now it works. So just to verify, I'm going to go back to my JavaScript. I'm going to get rid of the set request header. Reload. And it doesn't work with the request header. It does work. So both things have to be true. I have to be returning $ under post in my fetch.php, and I have to tell the server that I have form URL encoded data in the body of the request.